All right. Yeah. So do you want to do a quick intro here? Here we go.
We're ready to go?
I think we're ready to go.
All right, so.
Yeah. So the camera's on the owl. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna feel very official. I'm gonna take, so it's 1 o'clock and we had an appointment at 1 o'clock in KW room. So hello, everybody in person and online. And so I'm Christine Williams with the Elevate Market Center. And today we are doing How I Built It with Jose Medina. So thanks for those of you that could join us in person, and for those of you online, the chat will be monitored. So if there's questions that I'm not covering in today's interview, feel free to submit them to Mike Schmieder or Allison, and they will let me know that there's some additional questions. But let's just jump right into it. So Jose, who are you? Tell us a little bit about
I'm someone who got tricked into doing this by Artichoke.
and I'm here to make it less painful.
Yeah. So I was licensed in, should I talk to you or to them? I'll go to both, I guess. So I was licensed in 2002. Prior to that, I graduated from Ashland University in 2001. Worked at a university for a year and decided that I pretty much was unemployable because I didn't want people telling me what to do. So I got into real estate. So 2002 is when I got licensed. Right after I got licensed in August, my wife found out she was pregnant in October, and we had always decided like she's gonna stay home. We want like her to be able to have that experience and stuff like that. So I was in Canton, which I wasn't originally from, 2 months into the business, and like I needed to like jumpstart my career. So that was really a lot of my motivation is for that next 9 months to like build out my pipeline and get up and running and have consistent income. So that was in 2002. Fast forward to now. I run a couple market centers. So I have 2 market centers. We have 7 locations. We're in Canton, Worcester, between the 2 market centers. I also run a sales team in Canton primarily, and they do about 800 transactions. I have an expansion team in Cleveland that does about 220 transactions. And then we have expansion teams that we've partnered with throughout the US. I have one in Worcester, I have one in Florida, and hopefully another one in Florida here pretty soon. Outside of that, I have 4 kids, 4 teenagers. So I have, yeah, I know. So I have an 18-year-old who's a freshman in college. I have a 16-year-old, which I'm pretty sure is not going to make it to 17 because I'm a killer. I have a 15-year-old son and then a 13-year-old daughter. So
a lot of spare time.
A lot of spare time. Oh, and 2 dogs. Well, I have a dog and my wife has a dog. We don't claim each other's dog because there's just lines there.
Okay, so they mutually exist, but don't.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I don't claim her dog and she doesn't claim my dog, and that's just works well.
Who gets the kibble on the taxes?
I don't know.
So you have like nothing to do all day. Nobody's looking at you to like make decisions or make moves throughout the 24 hours of your day. So that's cool. Aside from real estate, do you have other businesses that you have your hands in?
So I'm a partner in three title companies, and then I have a private money lending business where I work with investors to fund their flips. We did a little stint. We're just finishing up. We were building houses, just finishing that up. That wasn't my thing. I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So when you got licensed, did you look like you were 12?
Yeah.
Okay, because like I would imagine for most folks coming out of college and men in particular always look super young.
Mm-hmm.
So who inspired you to get into real estate at 22, fresh out of college, getting married, having kids?
Yeah, so like I said, I worked for a university for like a year. I made $26,000 and I got a company car, a Chevy Cavalier, so it was pretty awesome. But I was there first in the morning, I was there like the last at night, and because I was the new person and because I was young, like I just didn't make as much as people that were there for 5 years. And to me, I was like, that's not right.
Yeah.
Like you should be paid for what you do, and you don't get to eat unless you kill something. Like that was just my mentality. And I was like, this just isn't for me. Like I don't want to work up the corporate ladder and stuff like that. So, so that was in Arizona. We moved out to Arizona right after we got married. And then on my way back, I listened to a bunch of Dave Ramsey tapes and Carlton Sheets and just like all about real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, I'm either going to get into financial planning or real estate. So I like interviewed for both. I got shut down by Edward Jones. Not that I hold a grudge anymore. But they shut me down as like a financial planner. And so like the door just opened for me to get into real estate, and that was it.
So Carlton Sheets, did you have the big binder?
I had the big
And it had
binder.
the cassette tapes in
I had the
there?
cassette tapes. I listened to all the way back from Arizona, like in the U-Haul. That's a real story. Yep.
Yeah, I too had the Carlton Sheets
Yeah.
like binder. It was, he was cutting edge at the time.
Yeah.
All right, so what inspired you at what point in your career path? So you started as an independent realtor, just one guy. At what point did you make the jump from independent to building a team, being a team leader?
Yeah. So I was at a small brokerage for about 1.5 or 2 years. I had to leave because the broker kept bouncing my checks. And like, I was like single income, my wife was pregnant and blah, blah, blah. So I had to needed consistent income. So I went to RE/MAX I was there for I think 12 years, 13 years. And I would love to say I did all the right stuff and I read the books and I knew how to build out a team. It wasn't the case. Like I honestly, my first hire was because I remember the address of the property where I was super busy. I'm sure you guys have all been there. I was super busy and I got a buyer phone call that I just never called back. And about 3 days later, I got an offer in with that buyer's name on it. And when I was looking through the contract, I was like, that name sounds familiar. And then it triggered oh, that was the person on the voicemail that I never called back because I was too busy. And so I called someone at my old brokerage. I was like, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
And she's actually still with me 16 years later. Yeah. She's lived through all my leadership failures. But that's how I started my team. It was just because I was so busy that I was working too much and I didn't have balance in my life and my home life, and things were falling through with clients. And so I just built that way. And then my next hire was an assistant.
Mm-hmm.
My next hire was another assistant because I burned that one out. And it was 4 assistants until I got the right one.
Yeah.
Which she just celebrated 15 years with me. So she's been with me for a long time. So, but it took me a while. I didn't have career visioning. I didn't have all of the tools that you guys have now to go through that process better. I just hired people and then see if they could keep up with me.
And memories, are you teaching career visioning coming up soon?
Yeah, in May, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, I thought I saw that in one of our emails. So, all right, so for anybody that's out there in real estate, I always refer to going to my counsel. I have a group of people that if I have a question or a challenge or, I want to kind of do the checks and balances, I go to my counsel. So I'm curious, who's your counsel? Who's your trusted group of people? What are the things that you've taken to the group?
Yeah. So my maths coach is probably one of my big ones for business. I feel like if you're trying to lead at a high level, you should probably have a coach. If you're trying to accomplish things, you should have a coach. I know maths coaching is expensive. I'm not saying that that's the answer, but you should have someone that's further down the road that's speaking into you and that can look at things differently. I think when you're in business, when you're in the middle of whatever it is, you can just see things very closely, and a coach can look at it from a different angle, back up, pull you out of it. And so my maths coach I've been with for 5 years, which is unusual for a coach. You usually move them around, but he has just been able to really pour into me. So my coach would be one, my wife is the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Happy wife, happy life. And she has amazing counsel. She's the complete opposite of me. Meaning she's likable and personable and like fun. But she just completely thinks about things differently, but also understands like my heart behind things and stuff like that. So she's always one of counsel. If I need to make a hard decision or if I'm looking at a different business, she's in lockstep with me for every decision we make.
Are there other realtors or other people that have blazed the trail ahead of you that you've emulated or would refer to as a mentor?
Question. I don't know if there's an agent out there that I like try to mimic. I think there's other leaders outside of the real estate industry that I think very highly of and how they think and how they operate their organizations. And that's who I try to mimic. Does that make sense? It's not because there's not that person in real estate or there's not good leaders. It's just, for me, it's not just about real estate or a brokerage or whatever. It's like 20 years from now, what do I want my life to look like with my kids, with my family, with the people that are around me and stuff like that. That's what's really important to me. So like, there's a guy, Craig Groeschel, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of him. He's a mega pastor, but he not only has like a podcast where he puts out his sermons, but he has another one that's a leadership podcast. So once or twice a month, he puts something out and I religiously listen to that. I read his books. Andy Stanley is another one that I just really like get into his style of leadership and who he is as a person and stuff like that.
So you start out as an individual agent, you branch out and aggregate into a team. How long into your career path did becoming an owner of a brokerage come into possibility? And was it something you considered lightly and moved quickly, or was it a long consideration? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so the evolution of my team was, I went through a bunch of assistants and then it was me, a buyer agent, and an assistant for a while. And then we added another assistant and then we added another buyer agent. And we really camped out as like five to six people on the team for a while. And I think that was, for me, it was really critical because at that point we were building out the systems, the culture, just kind of like the foundation of a strong house. Like you just wanted to spend extra time on that. And I didn't do it like intentionally. It's just, that's kind of where we ended up at, was like, we really built this strong foundation of who we are as the core, built out our core values and stuff like that. Before we went on to like start adding on more agents and stuff like that. So the spurring of going into the brokerage field for me was, I was at RE/MAX and I was looking around and I said, I don't want to just sell houses when I'm 60 years old. Like there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for me as an entrepreneur, like I just happen to be in the real estate field as an entrepreneur. So for me, getting up and showing houses or doing listing appointments when I'm 60 or 65, like this just wasn't for me. So I knew I needed to either invest in real estate or I needed to invest in another business, because we all know the day you stop selling houses is the day you stop making income off of that. So I needed something as like a residual to like make sure that I had other opportunities. So I have some rentals as well, but I wanted to venture into the business. And so one of the spurring moments was, I remember like it was yesterday, going out to Bob Evans with my broker at RE/MAX and asking like, what was the next opportunity for me? I was the #1 agent in his office. I was the #1 agent. He had 7 offices. I was the #1 team out of his whole, all the things. And he basically didn't have an answer, and he didn't have like a retirement plan or a succession plan. So for me, I was like, well, if I stay at RE/MAX, I know what my future is. It's just selling more houses.
You've seen it.
Yeah. And so then basically I just got a conversation with Keller Williams. And as you guys all know, Keller Williams is tons of opportunity, almost too much sometimes. Like you can do literally anything you want. You can build a team, you can be a PC, you can be a maths coach, you can teach classes, like all of the things. And to me, just living in the RE/MAX world for so long, it was just like, oh my gosh, look at all this opportunity out here that I never had exposure to. And so with the conversation, I wanted to make sure when I transitioned to KW, it wasn't just like, I'm just moving brokerages. I was like, I'm moving my team and like, I want to move my business acumen forward.
Mhm.
And so that was when it was, hey, I want to come over, and the office that I was at 50 agents. And they had been they've been open for like 6 years. And you guys know KW World, 50 agents is like nothing.
Yeah.
So now we're at 220 agents 5.5 years later. So
So that's the legacy.
that's the legacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been in the business approximately 10 years, if I'm following the numbers correctly. before you went into-
About 13, 14 years at that point, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the difference for you on a tactical basis between running a team and then shifting into running a brokerage?
I don't think there's really much of a difference.
Okay.
If you can run a team at a high level, then you probably can run a market center. And if you can't run a team, then you probably can't run a market center, because it's the same like basic leadership principles
Mhm.
of having standards, having goals, having accountability, knowing what your key metrics are and what activities need to be driven by all of those things.
Mhm.
So I don't think there's really much of a difference. I will say that my transition from Remax to KW, that has changed me as a business person more than anything else, because I was running a team, I wasn't running a business.
Mhm.
Like with P&Ls and understanding like key drivers of my business. I was out selling houses and doing what a lot of teams do, but stepping into an OP role and leadership in a market center really changed how I needed to look at businesses and income and all of those things. And so it's made me a better team owner by being in that leadership role. If that makes sense.
So for me, when I came over from a different brokerage to KW, I always tell people the story that the other brokerage to me was like the Wizard of Oz. I was told come with questions, so we'll give Jose a break. I'll share my story. So when I came over to KW, it was from a smaller brokerage here in the Cleveland area, and the difference for me was like coming from the beginning of the Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy's at Auntie M's and it's like black and white and it's sort of mundane and like the tumbleweeds are blowing and you just sort of have this wah, wah, wah existence. And then I was invited to come over to KW, and I wasn't unhappy where I was. Let's make that clear. But I saw a growth potential because it came down to a simple thing as having a key. Having a key to go to an office, to meet my clients, to build my business was available to me. So it was by your predecessor, Mike Provide. So, I'm part of the Easy team in Westlake, and Greg called me for months. Come on, Chris, it's fun. It's fun. And I'm like, well, not unhappy. So when I did make the move, I can tell you that it was like going from black and white Auntie M's desolate tumbleweed farm to walking into the Wizard of Oz. And it's bright and beautiful and just so much depth and character and color. And it was an amazing opportunity to make that shift from selling houses to running a business, from being told what to do, although you're a 1099 employee, to making your decisions on behalf of a client. And so that's my experience from coming from another brokerage to here. And I think it's interesting that from a different brokerage, because we were both a different brokerage, but you had a similar experience in coming from just selling houses and doing the work to building a business, and what I would humbly refer to as an empire that you've built so far. And I mean, good on you. In a dozen years plus, you've really increased your business opportunities. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, just even thinking like through this wall that has all the bold things, like there's just so much education on this side of things than there was at the other work. And then, like you said, I wasn't unhappy. Like at all, my team was very successful. We were doing 400 or 500 transactions, and it was completely different. Like it just, the sharing wasn't there, the culture wasn't there, the education wasn't there. It was all like for me, it was like, go figure it out all by yourself. Where here, there's like a whole community of people trying to do the same stuff.
So coming into the KW world from another brokerage, did you experience the taking a drink by fire hose?
Oh my gosh. Well, like you have all these acronyms.
Still learning the
What-
language.
Yeah, so like, not only that, so I was new to KW, but then I stepped into an OP role, so it was like this highway that's going 100 miles per hour, and I have to step onto it, like just standing still. And so, yes, that first 6 months, I don't even remember, to be honest, like it was just transitioning, at that point, it was probably like 12 people on my team, transitioning 12 people over to KW, stepping into OP role, like, what does OP even mean? I don't know, I just signed up for it. All of this stuff that went along with it, and then all these agents that are at this market center that now want to know me and like, I don't know, talk to me about stuff. And so it was a lot. I mean, it was a lot. And there was definitely nights where I was like, what did I do? And I would never go back. Like it was well worth the learning and the growth that happened in that time, for sure.
So work-life balance at that time, how long did it take to really put all of that back? Because I can only imagine the pendulum swung to work for a hot minute and then some. Like at what point do you feel like you started hitting your stride and gaining back the structure of your day after taking on the OP leadership position in Legacy?
Yeah, so if you guys have read the one thing, Gary Keller talks about it, and he says that basically balance is a myth. And that if you look at your life, there's going to be, if people think balance is this straight line down the middle of like, oh, I have work and family and health and all that stuff, like perfectly balanced, and I'm riding this straight line. He said it actually looks like this, like you go heavily over here and you may start a new business, or it may be spring market and you're showing 30 houses, if it's 30 houses to show. But like you're heavy over here, and then the key is not to be over here too long.
Yeah.
Right? Because over here gets neglected. That could be your health, that could be your family, that could be your kids, whatever. But like, so you have to, if you're going to be over here for a period, you have to come back over here to like recoup that. So that's kind of been my philosophy of like, yes, I'm going to go do some heavy, busy stuff, and you're probably not going to get a hold of me on a Sunday, right? Or you're not going to get a hold of me on, like when I go on vacation, I'll take my phone. My team knows they can call me if my house burns down, or if my dog dies.
Like your dog?
My dog. Well, like, they can call my wife's phone because I don't, like only 2 or 3 people have my wife's phone number on my team. So like, you're not gonna get a hold of me. The client definitely aren't gonna get a hold of me. So like, I just wanna make sure like if I'm going hard over here, there's definitely periods where I'm like not neglecting kids and family and health and all those other things.
So you've mastered being present.
I don't know if I say mastered, but it's a battle that all of us have. I have hacks that work for me. Like one of my hacks is, you know, let's say I get home at 6:30. I think most people will take their phone in, and if your client calls, you're going to be answering it at 6:40 or 6:50 when your client calls. I will leave my phone in the car for an hour or so, like when I get home, and just, I know if it's on me, like I'm gonna be that guy that's like, my wife's talking to me and I'm gonna like be checking my phone and saying, oh, hold on. And it's not fair to them, in my opinion. So like, I'll leave it in the phone, I'll leave it in the car, spend some time with family. And then when things have settled down, then I'll get back and take my phone and handle what I need to. It's not life or death in real estate.
Yeah. My husband has the same affliction. It's called TikTok, not a client.
Okay.
So we had a conversation daily. It's like, you know, TikTok is great. And then, so do you consider yourself a leader?
Yeah, sure.
How do you define being a leader?
I think, I don't know how I define it. I'll tell you what I think are attributes of a leader. I think you have influence with others. I think it's a leader's responsibility to develop others around them, and to pour into them and to help them build the life that they want to live. And whatever that looks like, right? That could be, I just want to pay for my kids to get through college, or it could be, I want to pay off student loans, or whatever the case is. But as a leader, that's kind of what you're thinking about as you're going through the days. How can my life help this person achieve the goals that they want to achieve? And how can I give them the surroundings and the culture and the community to make those dreams happen?
What was your greatest moment being a leader, seeing somebody's success in the way, seeing someone succeed in the way that you were just describing?
That's a tough question.
We can come back to
No, I got it. So I had a lead ISA, kind of a weird story, but there's a guy on my team that we ended up, his name's Kevin, and my wife actually connected Kevin with her friend Christy. Anyways, they all came and worked for me. And so Christy was my first ISA that I ever hired. And then she went on to like develop our ISA department, our inside sales agent department. These are the people that are prospecting for us on a daily basis as a team. So she was my first ISA. I developed her into a lead ISA to train others. And she had always her goal was to pay off her student loans. And I mean, when she started, she was making like $35,000. When she left, she was making way more. And she was able to accomplish that. And then she quit to go on to do something else. But like, that was the goal for her, is to like use this opportunity to pay off my student loans. I'm gonna make more money than what I was doing before. And he's giving me this opportunity. Let's do well with it. And then I can have the income to pay off the student loans. And so that was really like, that's a huge success for me to say, like, I was able to provide that opportunity for that person to be able to do that. Give them the tools and the resources and the, all the things that they would need to be able to like do that. And then that was a check mark, and then she went on to do other things. So it was a period of time where I was able to be, her boss and help her grow and stuff. So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Because I think anytime you can have something to do with someone achieving a goal, there's so much to be felt in their accomplishment.
For sure.
Not that it has anything to do with us, but we might have been party to that. So far, do we have any questions coming from?
It's very touchy-feely for my personality, but yes.
It's my gift. Okay, so I'm going to continue with my question. So if anybody has anything that's just burning, let us know. All right, so in all fairness, I did give Jose a heads up to some of these questions earlier, but what is one thing in your time as a realtor that has taken your breath away, or something that's made you pause for a minute before you just completely leaned in and committed to doing it?
I don't know. I think I have a pretty high risk tolerance. So I have risk doesn't bother me really.
Okay.
So like I probably don't pause enough sometimes. And that's where my wife is kind of the drag on it. Not drag in a bad way, but like she is able to is that really good? Like, is that really healthy for us to do right now in this season of life with all the kids? And so she's been able to give pause and help me kind of think through some things. I'm trying to think where I would have had really big pause to have. I really am pretty high risk tolerant, so it doesn't really scare me that much to hire another person or take on another market center or whatever.
What about on the backside of a decision where you just went through the motions and you're like, okay, so I don't have that, I'm not risk averse. So I'm just going to jump in and make the decision. And then all of a sudden, you look back and you think, wow, that worked way better than I planned. Anything like that in your experience?
Pretty much everything. It's gonna be good, but I didn't realize that the market center of 50 people would be 220 agents now, or what we've done with Elevate here and stuff like that. I don't think, and that's really just a tribute to the leaders that we have in our organization. It's not really a whole lot with me. I just paved the way, and they actually do all the hard work. I don't know if that really answers your question or not.
Well, it's a good answer to your question. So, all right. So, what steps did you take to get over fear when doing the next big thing? So, or maybe because you've already identified that you're not very you just sort of jump into things. So if there ever was something that did make you pause for just a hot second, or you and your wife were talking about it, like what were the steps that you took to kind of say, all right, let's reevaluate, and how deep did you go?
Yeah. So to be clear, I don't just jump into things. Like I know I said I'm like risk doesn't bother me, but I'll tell you a little story that has nothing to do with business, but you'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
So it was a Friday night, and I was sitting at home with my wife, and I said to her, I think I'm gonna build a fire pit in our backyard. And she's like, okay. And so like, it was like a pretty short conversation. And so Saturday morning, I got up and went to Lowe's and got all the stuff to build a fire pit. Well, I had been thinking about building a fire pit for like 3 or 4 weeks before that. I just didn't share it with her.
Yeah.
And she had obviously opinions about what would be going in her backyard. So, but the point of that is like, I think about things for a long time before I actually like say them out loud.
Okay.
Because that's just how I'm wired. Where others, I think, need to like talk through stuff.
Mhm.
To me, it's like, I'm just thinking about it, and then I say it, and then it's probably already done or pretty close to being like done, or it's gonna happen.
So deep internalization before
Yes.
action.
Yes, which is not good or bad, it's just who I am.
Mhm.
There's definitely bad side because fire pit didn't turn out all that great, if anybody's wondering. But like, if I would have talked about it, I would have got her input on it and would have got her collaboration on it and all of that stuff, versus just like going and doing it.
Yeah.
And not bringing someone along with you.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. Like
Yeah.
one time, my husband left to go on a weekend road trip for baseball, and I'll admit that I may have had a third beer. 1 and 2 is usually pretty good. The third one inspires me to do things that are reckless, and I tore all the carpet off the stairs going upstairs. And so my daughter was TikToking or doing whatever kids do at that age, and he called and said, "So do you have? Do I still have carpet on the stairs?" And I'm like, "What an odd question. Like, you're halfway to Kentucky. Like, why would you even ask me that?" And I'm standing there looking at the stairs, and I thought, "Oh, 5 strands of carpet left." And I said, "Yes, you do. Yes, you do still have some carpet left on your stairs." So, yeah, I too internalize and then just act, but that day I just took on the action.
How did
So,
you know that the carpet was gone?
because my daughter was social mediating the boys. So the boys and my husband were traveling to Kentucky for a baseball tournament, and Emma and I were left to our own devices. And I thought, I redid the stairs when we lived in Cleveland. Well, let me tell you, 1920 stairs in Cleveland, Ohio are vastly different than late 80s in Brunswick, Ohio. They were just not pretty at all, ever, at any point in time. So I had to make them pretty for a little bit. Okay, so in KW world, we hear an awful lot about the disc profile.
Mhm.
Are you a D, I, S, C?
Yeah, so I'm a D. So it goes 0 to 100, and the last time I took it was like a 98 for a D. And then the C personality was like somewhere in the 70s. So it kind of looks like a U, goes to D and then back up to C. So I can be very detailed when I need to be. And like I am, and then there's other times that I can care less about any details. I just care about the end result, and that's my D, kind of
Just push through it.
just
get it
pushing
done.
through everything else. Yeah.
What do you wish you were more of?
So I recently took it twice, like in the last probably 4 years, and I asked Joanne on my team to like share with me, because I was positive I was becoming more of an I, and that it was like exactly the same. Actually, I think it might have went down a little bit because I don't know, I just would like to be a little bit more social than what I am. But it just didn't happen at all. And then my S is like, I think it was like 1 or 2. Like it was really, really, really low. But I don't, that doesn't bother me. I would like to have my I a little bit more where I can not feel so uncomfortable when you're interviewing me.
We can go to lunch more often. I'll throw some high on you.
Yeah. I'm assuming you're pretty I.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I'm a chameleon.
Yeah.
No, I'm definitely, so interestingly enough, I am detailed, I am analytical, but I'm highly social and gregarious. So
Yeah.
I guess that would make me an I. So I think experience tends to teach everyone an awful lot. So go back to your first assistant your first 3 assistants to today, when you have market centers to fill, what's the difference between the people that you hired day one and what you look for in a team member today? So team member being maybe somebody to join your sales team or fulfill an office role. What's the difference between how closely you looked at people back then and what are the key features you're looking for in a partner today?
Yeah. So one I would say, and this is kind of a plug for career visioning, but career visioning has been the most impactful class that I've ever taken, period. It's really, I was the guy that like met someone at Starbucks and they wanted to join my team and they were at my next team meeting and they were part of my team. And I know probably most of you aren't as bad as what I was, but we have Allison's gonna laugh about this, but we have a tendency to shortcut the process when hiring people. And I always say we don't have to shortcut it, but we can go pretty fast through it. Like it doesn't have to take a month to get through someone through career visioning. We just hired a new MCA at my other market center and it was like 4 days. We had that person through all the career visioning process. So I didn't have a system. I had systems for taking a listing. I had systems for taking a buyer. I had systems for everything, post-closing, everything. And I didn't have a system for hiring. And so having a system around hiring and know what you're looking for really, really has been a huge game changer for me.
Mm-hmm.
The type of person from day one to now hasn't changed.
Okay.
It just has been, I now have a process to weed out the person that shouldn't be in our schools. And ultimately, I think what we're looking for is ego. For me in my world, like, and people that I associate ego, like people with big ego, like are not gonna do well in the organizations that I have.
Mm-hmm.
If they stick out amongst everyone, if someone has a huge ego on our team or market centers. So ego is a big thing, and then someone who has to be hungry. They have to be willing to grow and invest in themselves and be willing to learn and stuff like that.
Okay. So how many minutes have I kept, Rosie?
37.
37 minutes.
Yes, you're doing well. Okay, so hindsight is like one of the most amazing gifts in life. And if you had to take a moment and think about what was something that you really wouldn't do again. So I don't want to say the worst decision ever, but like what's something that you would look at and go, yeah, I don't think I could try that one again.
Yeah. So that's an interesting question because I think that we can learn from every mistake that we've had. And I think that's how you grow. I think if people aren't willing to make mistakes, they can be very comfortable. And so if you haven't made a mistake recently,
You're not trying.
yeah, like what new have you tried if you haven't made a mistake recently? That hit a nerve.
I don't like that. Well, I mean, you failed forward, and I agree, but like I can't really cite something, so I really put you on the spot, but I think that, so my husband, baseball,
Yeah.
Hall of Famers fail 7 out of 10 times.
Yep.
And yet they still are in a Hall of Fame, they still earn a lot of money. So failure isn't bad. You grow through that. But every so often, I think you just kind of look back and you think, I don't know that I would really do that again. So not necessarily something that you need to ask, but I think that opinion on failing forward is important, because if you're not making mistakes, you're not growing because you're not trying.
Yeah, it's a clear sign. Like if you can't think back, or the people that you manage can't think back about where it was that you last failed, that's probably an indication that they're either like scared to like, they don't feel like they have the liberty to make a mistake, or they're not trying to grow. Because if you're growing, then you're going to make a mistake. I have a saying that, and you'll like this with baseball, but like, I'd rather, if you're going to swing out or if you're going to strike out, I'd rather see you strike out swinging. Don't strike out just like looking at the ball. Like if you're going to strike out, let's just go all in. That means you're at least trying. And so I don't think that answered the question that you were asking, but
No, but I mean, I think everybody probably has like in real estate, I think all of us can agree that maybe we've not executed an addendum correctly. Like there's this moment where you're like, I will never do that again because it caused me so much discomfort. Like I lost sleep or, so I guess that was kind of the context with which the question was, but failing forward and learning, pushing your growth potential. So to that end, what's the last time you hit a ceiling?
I mean, getting up here and doing this with you is right near a ceiling. I think there's always ceilings that I'm hitting, and it's a matter of, for me, it's a matter of what can I let go? And am I okay to have success through others versus success through myself? So like, I'm just handed off the reins to a general manager for my market centers, which is a very scary thing because for the last 6 years, I've been the OP of the market centers and like in the day-to-day stuff. And Rich just sent out a text to Allison and Mark the other day and said, hey, you can take Jose off this text thread where he doesn't know what's going on now. And I'm like,
who gave you CPR? There's a cardiologist around.
Yeah. I was like, and I hired him because I know he's completely competent and will do a great job and probably do better than I am. And that's really hard to say, like, I'm not the person that's going to be in the know with all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's still like the letting go, control, have success through others, trust that, which is funny because there's so many other areas of the jobs that Mike knows so much more about commissions than I ever would. And I trust him to do it. Why can't I just do it when it's something that I've done before?
You can do it.
No, I'm good. I've hit a ceiling there.
So, pushing through that ceiling was saying, okay, like take me off the group text.
I didn't really have an option. Rich just said, I'm starting another text without Jose, which is fine because if I had it, like I probably would still be holding on to it.
Yeah. So how many times over the years would you say you have had to pass the baton to somebody?
It's like constant, it feels like. It really is. I mean, if you're growing an organization, you only have so much bandwidth and you got to focus on your 20%, which means there's always stuff that's falling off. And so you have to be able to be okay with giving that stuff up to others. And the key is just to find loyal, competent, really good people to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So altogether, you've been licensed since 2002?
Yeah, 2002. Yeah.
So 20 years. What's your growth potential?
I think we're just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you want to learn? Like when you wake up in the day, there's just this world of things out there that you can pick and choose to learn from as you pass the baton to other people to fulfill these roles that you've created in these years. What do you want to learn?
So what I would say is, I think most people need to, they need to remember, I have a saying that people need to be taught, or people need to be reminded more than they need to be taught. Like a lot of us know exactly what we should be doing to hit the next level of success, right? You just need someone to remind you and hold you accountable to it. And so for me, it's not really about I have to read this book this year, and I read a book a month because I think I have to grow as a leader because I have leaders around me that I want to pour into. I keep forgetting the question. What you said?
No, so where do you want to grow?
Oh, okay.
So you're Jose, and you're sitting in your own little cozy book nook, and you, let's say for instance, you had a catalog of life experiences to select from. Like what would be the top 3 things that you would say, this is what I want to aspire to do next?
So one is a practical level about becoming a better public speaker. And so hence why I'm teaching career visioning. My coach said I need to get out of my comfort zone. So I have to teach a whole day class. So that's one thing. But more importantly would be where I was going with the remembering versus learning was, since I'm such a high D and a high C, both of those are process over people. So I often forget that people have feelings. which is crazy. But like I often like just operate in the black and white, super driven area, and I often have to remind myself that, oh, that person has feelings and that person has a life, and like there needs to be grace there, not just truth, basically.
So my practical application of that statement is that in my experience, D and C people will care about you. They will do the things that will take care of you and provide for you. And I and S care for you. Like they'll be the people that will show up and give you the hugs and embrace you and walk you through life struggles and, you know, like, so. That makes Jose like really uncomfortable. But, you know, so if you want to be,
Yeah, I care
more
about
on
that.
it,
Yeah.
you know, so are you going to read a book to become more?
Can I delegate that?
Yes, you can, but if you're gonna send a cookie, make sure it's handwritten note, right? You know, so, okay, so to me, I think that's interesting because if you've accomplished so many things at such a young age, and I'm assuming your first digit begins with a 4. So, okay, so, you know, there's just so much life ahead of you. And I think when you can check the boxes and say, I've completed this, I've achieved this, what do I aspire to do? So my next question is, what's your legacy that you want to leave behind? Yeah. If someone had to write an epitaph on your tombstone, what would you want them to say?
Yeah. So my wife and I were just talking about this weekend because
I was there. No,
we went away just to Columbus for the weekend. And we were talking about this business opportunity that was in front of me, and she's like, I don't understand why you're even like considering it. And I was like, 1, why wouldn't I? And 2, but like, I was like, it's not about money or like another title or anything like that. It was really 2 things. It was about like progress. Like I want to see that we're moving forward in whatever we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lack of progress is super frustrating for me. And then the second, so just having progress. And then the second thing was creating opportunities for those around me. And so, quick story about Allison. So I met Allison 5 years ago or so. We had started our impact team. She was never sold a house before, newly licensed, was interviewing to be on different teams. And somehow we convinced her to be on our team. And that was 5 years ago, never sold a house before. Now she's a team leader of a very successful market center. And if I had not taken opportunities, like she wouldn't be able to have that opportunity. Right. And so for me, it's like, I want to be able to give people in my organization opportunities to grow, live the life that they want, be able to like, just do what they want inside my world. And so my world has to continue to expand to keep the leaders that I want to keep in there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
What is your wife's first name again?
Kate.
All right. So that's right. Jose and Kate Medina. So what does Kate, what's her influence to you in all of these different endeavors and businesses? You've already identified that she kind of gives you the checks and balances. Is she a sounding board? Is she integrated into the daily fiber and of the businesses, or is she mostly mom, run the house?
Yeah, so we have 4 kids, so that's more than a full-time job for her.
Mm-hmm.
And then outside of that, it's nice for her not to be in the day-to-day stuff, because it's just nice to go home and not talk about day-to-day stuff. We can talk about big picture stuff and stuff that's going on, and I can vent about stuff that's going on. But she's not in the day-to-day. She is the sounding board best friend. She's the opposite of me, so she brings different thought patterns around how I'm thinking, which is very beneficial for me to see it in a different way. So yeah, that's her.
So is she more so everyone has strengths and weaknesses. Is she the yin to your yang?
Yeah, she will come in my office and spend 10 minutes with my team members, and I'll come home that day and she's like, oh, did you know so-and-so is having a surgery and his son, their son is doing this? And I was like, I work with these people every day. I don't know anything that's going on in my office. And she's there for 15 minutes and knows everything.
Everything.
I'm like, no, I didn't know any of that, and I'm a horrible boss.
Well, it's interesting, because perception is reality. Like, you're gonna see things that she's not going to see, and she will see things that you don't see. So let's see here. I think that's the end of my interrogation for you today. So, does anybody else have any other questions? We'll open it up to the floor.
I think you answered the questions in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so what do we have?
No, you answered them.
Oh, I
Just
did?
during the conversation, yeah.
Oh, cool. So, is there any like Keller Williams, like tactical stuff that you guys have questions about? Because I'm definitely more of an IS in terms of conversations. But is there anybody that has like a burning question about how to do the business development that Jose would just slam dunk those questions? He's done sweating.
I'm definitely more touch and feely like you are, and this is making me emotional that this class has, because I feel so inspired. This has been really like, just, I haven't like talked to you before, but this is a good class. I don't want to cry, just because I'm happy to be here with everyone, and this is just a really good class.
So I can share two things. How about we do this? How about we can share anything that we've learned from Jose? So there's two things. One, how to do a P&L, because no clue, I had no clue. And the other, which my husband and I were just talking about, beer is a constant in my life. I do enjoy a good beer. And Modelo is now a common beer in our house, thanks to Jose's birthday party / Halloween party.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because the Modelo was there. I'm like, whoa, I have not tried that one yet. And it is now a constant. Yeah, so, yeah. So I learned to love Modelo by Jose. Anybody else have a?
We do have one more quick question that
Yeah.
popped up. Lots of people want to grow their teams. When do you think they should start taking practical steps to do so?
When you have enough business to support it. I think people jump to start a team. It's a pet peeve of mine. People jump to start a team when they really don't have the business to support it. You should start a team because you have the business that is starting to overflow and you need leverage around servicing your client. Until you've done the lead generation part of it to be able to like constitute a team, then it's probably premature.
So if someone, whomever is asking online, what do the numbers look like? If you were to say, okay, the average agent is going to create this much in units or this much in volume, and at that point, you're typically going to be able to project into growth of the team. Is there a number quotient that you would recommend, or just?
I think every person has a different like bandwidth of what they can handle. My first year in real estate, I didn't know anybody and I just door knocked and cold called. And I did 36 transactions. And so it was about 50 to 60 transactions before I hired my first admin. Now, other people could be listening to that and say, I'm at 25 and I need help. So it's completely different of whatever you can handle, like efficiency wise and so forth.
So you hired an admin first, correct?
Actually, a buyer agent.
A buyer agent
Yeah.
first. Okay, all right. So you still
I did
had
everything
that
wrong, yeah.
hand-to-hand combat with, not combat, but engagement with sellers, and you're still working your own buyers.
Yep.
And so today, what does that look like? How many people are you still sitting down and doing a listing presentation with and active? Do you run buyer leads anymore?
I don't run buyers, no.
Okay,
Like if my brother buys investment properties, I give them to someone on my team.
okay.
He's my brother, he's a pain in the butt. But I don't run buyers. I gave that up probably, well, my buyer's agents had like, my one lead buyer agent, she had like an intervention. She's like, why are you still taking buyers when you have 4 buyer agents?
Good point.
Okay. And so like from that day on, I never took a buyer because I was like, they actually do a better job than me. I still do listings. My coach's demise, he thinks I shouldn't be doing listings, but I like it. I took a listing last night for $8.95. So I'm more than okay with that. It's a good return on my time. I personally would do, I know this is gonna sound like a lot, but it really isn't. I would do about 100 transactions myself in a given year, 100 to 125-ish.
No big deal.
But that is because I have like a lot of leverage. Like I go take the listing, I give it to someone, and then they do everything, and I just negotiate it, and then I go to the closing. So like, it may take me only 5 hours to do that deal.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Versus, I'm just highly leveraged around it. So, so yeah, I still do the listing side of it.
Any other questions from online?
No.
Peanut gallery in the room? Anybody have any questions?
No.
Jarvis, anything? Duncan?
Great, I'm getting singled out. All right, well, here's one.
Okay.
And it's that tacky, boring question we've all answered out in corporate America, or perhaps, you know, when we've been interviewing in our real estate careers. Where do you want to be in 5 years?
I don't know. I honestly, I'm not sure. Like, I love what I do every day. I want to continue to grow both my team and our market centers. We're the team partnership platform that we're doing across the US is really exciting to me. And I think that, I think there's a lot of teams that need a partner that has been there and grown a business and can help them move from step to step to step in MREA. And that's what we're doing with that team partnership platform. And I see that being a huge part of the real estate business in the future. Places like Place, Livian, ours. I really feel like that's a big need in the real estate community because there are so many people that want to run teams, and it's really, really hard. Anybody that's ran a team before or started to run a team before, you know how hard it is. It's like herding cats sometimes. And so being able to partner with teams across the US is really like kind of where my focus and my passion is these days. Cool.
Last question in the chat. Your team does a ton of business. Any tips to help people generate more leads than they can handle?
So between my two main teams, we did over 1,000 transactions, and about 700 of them came from our database. So yes, we buy leads. No, we don't spend money on Zillow and Realtor. We do pay-per-click, but that was probably less than 100 transactions last year. It sounds so cliche and it's not a sexy answer, but it's all in your database. There's so much money in your database. If you can get a systemized touch around it, you will have all the business that you need. Sorry for the cliche answer, but it's the truth.
But that's true. I mean, you know, reaching out, because real estate is a personal business. It's that connection. I mean, your dentist isn't going to see the room that you sleep in.
Right.
So, you know, but they're still a professional that services your needs. So reaching out and having that connection with your databases, it's true. That's where the money's at.
I think of people like Aaron Boer and Christine Stowell, Lauren Witt, like all of them run a very, very good business, and it's all like in their database. They just know how to do it. So you can make a lot of money just out of your database.
Very true.
And until you've mastered that, then I wouldn't go spend the money on the other stuff.
So here's a cliche and a shameless plug for anybody out there and anybody in here. Tomorrow, the tech committee from the ALC is getting together for apps and appetizers. So somebody's going to share a link in the chat for the event, right? So if you are interested in getting together with some of the agents to figure out how to use technology apps and come have a few appetizers, you can buy yourself a beverage of whatever selection you like. We're going to get together. Some of it might or might not include command, which is included in what you pay for every month. And it's a great way to reach out and legally touch your database. So yeah, that would be my suggestion. So I just made several people in the room sweat a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. But I think that about wraps it up for today. So thank you for being my conversational specialist here. And so guys, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and talk to Jose. He is so looking forward to increasing his eye. We all know that. That's on his Revise New Year's Eve.
From
our New Year's
Claudia,
resolution.
one more comment.
Yeah.
Something I've learned from Jose, everyone has strengths and weaknesses. Being a leader is not about fixing or masking weaknesses. It's about leading people to acknowledge their strengths, then inspire them to use their strengths and to leverage their weaknesses. I am personally inspired by Jose's humble approach to leading others and honored to tap into his knowledge and experience.
Thanks, Claudia.
Thank you, Jose. You're welcome.